Showtime! The Capital G show starts right now.
What's up YouTube, Capital G here, doing another episode of Hidden Gems. We're talking about puppet playing in this video, and it was used in a feature match at YCS Toronto over the weekend, and I couldn't believe how I had forgotten about this card and how basically right now is the perfect time for Puppet Plant to be relevant again. For those of you guys who are unfamiliar with Puppet Plant, it's a level 3 Earth Plant monster, 1000 attack, 1000 defense. And its effect reads, you can discard this card to the graveyard, then target one warrior or spellcaster-type monster your opponent controls. Take control of that target until the end phase. And obviously, this is one of those cards where you're limited to the amount of monsters that you can use this guy on because it says it right there, spellcasters and warriors only. But if you look at the current format right now before we get our new ban list in October, I mean, we have Shaddolls, which they're an all spellcaster deck for the most part. That's tier 1. And then we have S Knights, and that's an archetype based solely on warriors, which are also tier 1. So at the very minimum, you've got 2 decks right there that are going to be very relevant matchups. I mean, you can take any Shadow monster, you can take any S Knight, and S Knights outside of maybe a Thunder King Ryo, they don't really run any other monsters. And what's cool is, depending on what you're actually running, that kind of determines the plays that you can set up with Puppet Plant, because this card doesn't have any restrictions at all. You can attack with the monster, you contribute, whatever you want, you can do pretty much. And considering that right now in this format, we've kind of had a rejuvenation of a bunch of mechanics, everything is pretty much relevant and up for grabs. Like, every single option out there is useful. I mean, we went years where the tribute summon just wasn't used, or, you know, so on and so forth, where we didn't use fusions and whatnot. Now we use everything. I mean, you can use this to, you can take your opponent's monster and you can obviously exceed with pretty much every deck. If you're running something like Yangzing where you have tuners and you can synchro, you know, you can use it for a fusion. I'm probably thinking most likely Shadow Fusion, like if you're playing Shaddolls and you happen to side this for, you know, you happen to side this for S Knights or in the mirror match or something like that. And then my personal favorite, because I'm running Battery Man right now and I've actually been experimenting in the side deck with Majesty's Fiend and Mobius, you can just straight up tribute summon their monster. And we all know that, you know, tribute summoning is actually a thing again because of Battery Man, and Burning Abyss will commonly side Caius and Ryza and Majesty's Fiends and all types of good stuff. And another reason I like this card is, you look at its stats compared to most hand traps, like Effect Veiler and Maxi. Those guys are just, you know, 100 attack, 500 attack, 0 attack in most cases. Puppet Plant has 1000 attack. I mean, you can do some legitimate damage with 1000 attack. If your opponent vanities you and then they don't have anything, you just summon Puppet Plant and attack, and, you know, maybe they pass and you attack again, and it's like, okay, that's 2000 damage. That's a solemn warning that they can't use. Or every time you attack with this guy directly, that's another monster that they can't get with Soul Charge. So 1000 attack for, you know, a card that activates in the hand, it's legitimate, I'll say that. And this card does get rid of Winda. I mean, that's a problem in itself for a lot of decks like Burning Abyss and Yangzing. You know, a lot of times if they don't have like breakthrough skill or BLS or something like that, they just straight up lose to that card. Obviously Yangzing don't run BLS, but you get my point. Winda is a problem for a lot of decks. I would include S Knights to not as much of an extent because they do run Call of the Haunted, which can be a saving grace, but just in general, Winda is a serious problem. And you have to think, if you take the Winda and you can mount the Shadow player, it really won't matter that your opponent is going to be able to get their Shadow fusion, especially if, you know, you have like Vanities or you know, like the perfect situation if you tributed for Majesty's Fiend, in which I believe that Winda would try and start a chain when she activates her effect, and then Majesty's Fiend would just be like, no bitch, no effects at all, period, and you wouldn't get the your opponent wouldn't get the fusion back. So I look at the card and I just think there's some pretty neat applications. You know, I saw some people trying to run Monarchs at YCS Toronto. If I was running Monarchs, I'd definitely run it, because basically it's just another copy of Brain Control against 2 of the best decks of the format. I mean, that's how you need to look at this card. It's just Brain Control against Shaddolls and, you know, S Knights. And a lot of times if you take their boss monster like Delta Rose, or you take, you know, a card like Winda, you can solve some of the problems that, you know, that boss monster definitely causes. So let me know what you guys think. Am I really reaching on this? Is this card halfway decent? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching as always.